Right, guys, I have just watched a 1.5 hour lecture by Yuji Yamada on the Mie Daigaku University YouTube page. So if you're not there, please subscribe. The top link will be a link to that 1.5 hour lecture. It's very long, but it's all in English. He speaks in Japanese, but it's written in English subtitles. So go along and have a look. If you really don't want to watch an hour and a half, you can jump to the last 10 minutes and he gives it, well, maybe the last 15 minutes he gives a roundup, but then he gives future things. So just be aware, the last sort of 10 minutes are what's going on in the future, but the last sort of like 5 minutes before that is a roundup. But I'm going to talk to you about that today. So go along, click the link. Unfortunately, the comments on the video are shut off for Mie Daigaku. I'm not sure why they are shut off on some, not on others. But today we're going to talk about the Shinobi and the use of guns based on Yuji Yamada's lecture in Japan. I've only just got round to basically viewing it. So first question, what's this? What's that? That is Matthew Okuhara clicking the link to this video because it says guns in it and he isn't in it. Matthew's always in my guns video, so he'd be like, guns and I'm not in it. Click. Let's tell the Cummins off. So anyway, so that's great. So I just watched, so hello Matthew. I just watched the video and basically Yuji Yamada is going around Japan looking at the different domains and trying to piece together the records of where the Shinobi were, how much they were paid, where did they move to, the names of different Shinobi that moved, and what they're described as doing, which it's not outright ninjutsu, it's not ninjutsu research in the sense of what did they do, like with the practicalities, but it's really good, really solid, really positive research on the foundations of what is going on in the early Edo period, late Sengoku, early Edo period, and it's amazing. It's really good. It is unfortunately an hour and a half of lists of names and lists of places which you can sort of switch off, but I will give you a roundup here. So he's looking at one domain in particular. So all the history of that domain is there. It's not important for this. But the point here is that he's gone back and looked at early records. And it seems that the ninja are very much, as we all know, but he re-establishes the fact that the ninja are very much a gunnery squad as well as a espionage squad. This is where we get the idea of special forces. People have argued against me for years saying it's not just special forces. Okay, but it's pretty close to special forces. There's a group of people who are trained in infiltration skills. It says these people are secret agents. It uses the ideogram kancho, okay, which is from the Bansen Shukai. We also know from the Wakan dictionary, this is called Shinobi no Mono. It says this is Shinobi no Mono. Kancho, which I actually only spoke about this the other day to LesCon and John Hater. So we went through this. So that kanji now exists there. I couldn't quite get the date of the document, but it was talking about early Edo period. And it talked about how the Shinobi of this area were very much secret agents, kancho, but also gunners. So what we have here is an amazing sort of brings us back that you've got these group of lads. They're all 5 foot nothing, 5 shaku tall, and guns in one hand, hand grenades on the other one, swords, and rough gentlemen. Their job is to protect convoys that are moving. When a lord moves from position to position, their job is to protect him. When the lord is on the road at night and he's asleep, their job is to protect him and take watch systems. Okay, so they make sure that they're going on watch. Then after that, we know that the Shinobi are used sort of for security in other places. But that we know, of course, that the Shinobi are also hired for their experts in fire and explosives. And, of course, it's referenced multiple times, espionage or something like that. Now, what was really interesting is that the Shinobi are used as gunners in war quite a lot. He talks about the Osaka campaign. He talks about Sekigahara. He talks about Shimabara and how they are used there in a gunnery position. And he's got the names of the different Shinobi. He's got everything, all together. He even tracks where the Shinobi move after. And there's one Shinobi there who's really cool. I think he says He is in the Battle of Sekigahara as a gunner, but he dies in 1634 of some sort of disease or something. But this is what I love, and what people forget, is that you have real gunners at Sekigahara who are ninjas, ninja trained, guns, fire experts, who are then alive in the early Edo period. So let's say up to 1650, you get people who are still alive, 1660, 1670. If somebody is 20 years old at Sekigahara, now he does say in his video that one of the Igamono, one of the Iga people there, was 12 years old when he started. Now that means he might have actually been 11 years old. It depends on whether Yuji Yamada has corrected for the Japanese counting. The Japanese do not count from 0, they count from 1. So sometimes it says 12 years old, it's actually 11 years old. So I'll have to ask Yuji Yamada if he adjusted the counter. So basically, you get the idea of an 11 or 12-year-old boy going to war in the Sengoku period, and let's say by the time he's 20, he's had 8 years of military service. Now you imagine, let's go back to Matthew Okuhara. I'm not sure how many years he did, but he did years in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all that sort of stuff, or wherever it was in the Middle East, and he did war combat. How many of you guys have done war combat, and how many years did you do it for? Imagine being 12 years old, and then by the time you're 20, you've had 8 years, and you participated in the Battle of Sekigahara. I'm not saying that that's exactly how the maths works out for this one gentleman, but basically that's what you're looking at. So somebody who's 20 in 1600 is 70 in 1650. So people like Natori Sanjuro Masazumi, Fujibayashi Yasutake, and not Chikamatsu Shigenori, he's the generation after, but at least those two and other writers are talking to people in the 1640s, the 1650s, when they're young, about war experiences. And some of them, and if somebody lives to 80 or 90, which can happen, it's not that, you mustn't misunderstand, in the olden days, it's not that everybody got to 50 and died, it's just a lot more people died younger. So basically, these early Shinobi manuals are taken only years apart from people who had masses of military experience and from a young age, okay? So you forget that boys go to war and boys are brought up. They don't go to school, and they're off to school, unless you're rich, in the medieval period. They're doing the jobs their father did, and they're out there doing them. So we've got this idea of troops in the Sengoku period, doing gunnery, doing espionage, explosives and everything. And then Yuji Yamada shows how they are then moving around from province to province as a group. And sometimes that group divides, and he's tracked where the different shinobi or igamono go to different provinces and are engaged there. One of the very interesting things he said is that they're not paid as gunners. They're gunners, but actually their payment is much higher, their house allocation is much higher, and even they're hired by one lord. The lord says, no matter how good exploits you do, I can't raise you any higher. I need to cap your wages, because they were so good. At the beginning, we know that Shinobi declined, but you get my point. So for me, what really makes a difference is that when we read the words of Chikamatsu, you get Kimura sensei's speech about how the Kokemono and the Igamono are declining now, and they're terrible, and they have to move around, and nobody really talks to anybody, and they're spread out too far, and the information network has died, or it's not so much, and they don't send New Year's cards to each other anymore or stay in contact. This is amazing, because Yuji Yamada's research is the foundation, and Kimura sensei's story or complaints or whatever you want to call it is the live human understanding of that research. So Yuji Yamada is here with his research, and Kimura is explaining how this is happening, and he's complaining about it, but he's saying we get less money, less people, our skills are declining, and Yuji Yamada's research is proving Kimura sensei is correct, which is excellent. So 10 points to Yuji Yamada. and Mie universities for putting a really interesting lecture out. It's taken me a long time to get around to it because it's an hour and a half and I had a lot of things to do. So I hope that helps. Click the link in the description below. And don't forget, guys, if you're interested in samurai stuff, get yourself a copy of How to Be a Modern Samurai by Moi and keep up to date with the research.